Hey, here we are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. I, your Sensei. And someplace closer than 40 miles away has opened, and so I'll be able to come online a little bit more. Hey there, AI. How you doing, buddy? Anyway, so just you hang in there, talk amongst yourself. I'll be right back. Uh, oh, so what do I owe you, girl?
When you get up front, she'll hit you, okay? She'll like pull you up with her. Thank you.
I had an egg salad sandwich and a glass of water. And, the little peppermint patty. Here's the palate. So how you guys doing? Been well. I mean, it's really been tough on me. I mean, I have no money, I have no place to go, but I live in heaven, so it can't be that bad. So it costs $3 and something cents, and
It was $4 or something.
with tax.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, it said it was $3.25 for a sandwich. That's $5. Peppermint patty was supposed to be 25 cents, but that's okay. I'm paying for the real estate, and one of these. So, yep. You know, Look at that. It broke. Anyway, so I might just walk outside, sit outside. It's pretty out there. And the AC doesn't work in here, so we'll see how that works. But so I haven't really been any place in the last 2 weeks. Went to the doctor's once, grocery shopping once. That's about it. But got gardening, planted a lot of flowers. You know. The grass has come up really nice. Everything's green, green, green. We had a lot of rain. And you know, I'm gonna in a week or two go get my eyes operated on. It's always stressful. But right now, so I'm gonna go outside and try. Let's see if it works. Here's the art gallery. Okay, let's see if this works. Outside is always nicer. Well, they took down the I didn't get you guys. I didn't pour it in my pocket. That's good. Anyway, here's where I am in the great outdoors. A little bit of water left. Anyway. So what do you think? I mean, I can't read the screen out here. But, you know, when we did the housing, 1980s when I came back from Ireland, I found 1 million New York City apartments had gone abandoned, meaning the landlord just walked away from them. And there were people, crack had come in and wiped out whole families. Crack was a really bad drug. That, you know, there were people who, you know, they'd smoke pot, no big deal. And they snort a little cocaine. That was no big deal. They tried crack, and man, they never came back. They were like gone, lost. I mean, it took whole generations, right? Because it took people, everybody, old folks, young folks, took everybody. And stand the shade. Looks like the thunderstorm's coming. But this is a concerted effort. I mean, all those things were pandemics. All those the oil embargo, 9/11, Vietnam War, going into Iraq, going into Syria. The election of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is probably the best president we've ever had because he lies so much that it comes to truth. Is that you, Caroline? Oh, it's too beautiful to sit indoors. As long as they don't take this thing away, I'll sit underneath it. Yeah, the fresh air, everything. Yep. You going to work? Yes, I was eating a dime there. Yeah. I had a little egg salad sandwich, and then I came out here. Okay, buddy. Almost ate that. It was in my mouth. It was in the frigging candy bar I was eating. But of course, it just came out of my pocket. But what the best thing about Donald Trump is he has brought to light the level of incompetency of our government. That has been going on. I mean, just look at the 14th Amendment. That guaranteed everyone equal rights under the law. Well, then Jim Crow came and, it didn't quite happen for the next 100 years. And we have totally kind of turned it. So now, everyone is under the gun. This is kind of like Germany, 1933. There was a Methodist bishop who said, when they came for the gypsies, I didn't know any, so I didn't care. When they came for the gay folk, I thought they were inappropriate. I didn't care. When they came for the communists, I wasn't a communist. I wasn't politically involved. I didn't care. When they came for the socialists, I didn't care. When they came for the labor folk, I didn't care. When they came for the Jews, I didn't care. And then when they came for me, there was no one to care for me. And that's kind of the story where we're at, gang. Now, I'm the poster child of social whatchamacallit, and and that's good. I mean, I live in a beautiful place. Can't escape the weed whacker, though. I mean, I shouldn't complain because I'm a weed whacker myself. But it's pretty much playing out like a symphony. It's a symphony of jackboots. And I haven't really, I don't have access in the deep green. I have to drive at least to here to look at it. And I kind of looked at that picture of the cops knocking down the old guy. And yeah, he's an old guy. He was standing there. They came up to him. He asked him a question. They pushed him. They pushed him like, get out of here. And he fell over. And on that video, you could hear his head crack on that concrete like an egg. And one cop went down, and another cop said, no, no. And they walked past him. And then others came to help the old guy, and they got arrested. It was like pretty, really? So that's what you get. First off, you have to realize in America and pretty much around the world, there is no such thing as municipal policing. Those guys are owned by the rich and powerful, period. And back in the Billy Clinton days, he militarized he started the whole thing of when the Reagans were in there, and they were like, Ronnie was, he showed the bag of crack, that Georgie gave him, and they were supposed to be law and order folk, but they were, when Bill Clinton took office, there were about 700,000 people in jail. When Bill Clinton left office, and that goes along with the good old, Senator, what's his name, Joe. There were 6 million black people in jail, basically, and at that time they were only 13% of the population, and yet they were like 80% of the the prison protection, population. And what's interesting is it's just how the Great Society ruined the black community, and the drugs were focused on the poor, and these things were all done. They didn't just happen. It just wasn't like the rain. Today, the rain is like. So, Karen, is that a bottle of maple syrup or a beer? Oh, okay. So you guys barbecue? No, I'm talking about you. You and Rich. Oh, okay. Barbecue. Well, that sounds good. Yeah. That sounds good. Say hi to Richie for me. It's nice to know everybody around. So, and that's what stops, so I kind of was talking about when we took over 50 buildings and housed 500 families. And we grew our own food and had our own schools and had our own bank. Because all those neighborhoods were redlined and destroyed, and by gentrification, first destroy it, then buy it cheap, and then, because Soho, they have 100-story elite condo in Soho. And when I lived in Soho, the buildings weren't any higher than 8 stories tall. There was sun everywhere. That was the beauty of Soho. There were no tall buildings, so there was light everywhere. And they did that on purpose because those buildings were factory buildings before they had electric light bulbs. And so, they had to have the sun. So, I had this great loft on Worcester Street, top floor. It had 20-something 12 by 12 foot sky. I mean, the whole roof was skylights. And then the whole back wall was glass because it was above the building in the alleyway. So the sun, it was facing southeast, so we got sun all friggin' day. And, or most of the day. And then the rest of the day, the sun came in through the skylights. And now they built towers in Soho. And they're so tall that they didn't redo the sewers. So the sewers are 19th century sewers. So the the shit comes flying down these buildings, and by the time they hit the sewer, they're like going the speed of sound, because water falling 100 stories is getting to go pretty fast. And the volume of the pipes are pretty big, 32 inches, all the way up to the top floor, and zingo. And so if you're standing on the street, the smell of the sewers gets wafted. And if you're near one of those buildings and there's a drainage, street drain there, that you can get hit by the crap. It's pretty amazing. So that's where we are. We're getting hit by the crap. And it's crap that we, of our own design. None of this. The devil didn't do it, Wasn't done by some evil empire. I would say the next thing that's coming down the pike is going to be, before October, there's going to be an alien intervention of extraterrestrial and dimensional characters, right? Because they've been here. We are their children. They made us. We are, manufactured. Anyway, so I made the glasses to see what you're saying. Saying anything? Can't see anything because it's a dark screen and no, can't even read it. But it's really, and so there are a lot of people, I watch, I spend about 15, 20 minutes looking at stuff before I came on. 'Cause I haven't really looked at the internet in 2 weeks, maybe even a month. And the people I normally watch, people like, Truly Graceful and Truth Media and Truth TV and Dark Journalist and Max of the Crow House, they're still saying the same thing, and I'm saying something different. We have to develop an alternative aesthetic, something alternative to what we have as human beings for the last 62,000 years. That's about how long. We've been stuck in these bags of water via, our souls are immortal, but this karmic little wheel that we were put on was manufactured. And, the movie The Matrix is, kind of expressing that. And, which is a very good movie. I like The Matrix. Very good. And so, what are you going to do? And so I've been, reading books. I read this really good book. I forget the lady's name. But she wrote it in the 70s about, pandemics and said, okay, guys. And she basically was going on about, Ebola had been around and, but, humanity, it's the same story. We go into a place where, pretty much, like cholera is an example. Cholera came out of the wetlands where, the Asian, European neck of the woods went into Africa, and it was the beginning. It was just a swampy mangrove rainforest. Gigantic trees, 500-600 years old, 100, 200 feet high, diameter about 100 feet. And, nobody wanted to go in there. Europeans kind of went in there. It's like the Congo. Nobody went in there until they found stuff. Until, in Nigeria, they found oil and, they found gold and diamonds and iridium and cobalt. And that's when they went in. And then they had, the wherewithal, the technology to cut those trees down, get them out of there, slice them up into lumber, and they were all teak and mahogany and amazing trees, and they got rid of them. And then they kind of burnt everything, which definitely didn't do the atmosphere or the weather any good. And then they started, putting cows on it and growing palm oil. And when that happened, there were so collars. So this happened in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s in that part of Africa. And there was the cholera microbe that was doing a very nice job of munching up things in the rainforest, right? In its natural environment, did a great job. Didn't do anything. But when people went in there, because natives didn't even go there, and whatever natives were there had been their natives, so they were, that didn't bother them. And they were so, personally spaced that, they were not environmentally impacting anything. But once the white guys showed up and cut all the trees down and started mining and having wars and stealing things, and it was called, you know, they were empire builders. And so when they did, and it happened in the United States, they cut all the trees down, and they got diseases there, and but mostly European diseases affected the indigenous people. But there in Africa, that's where cholera started, and it got into the white folk. And what cholera is this microbe that does a very nice job in the rainforest, chewing up things, but it gets into the human gut, and what it does, it turns your whole plumbing system backwards. So you vomit and diarrhea yourself to death. You know, you can um, when you can be vomiting and diarrheaing and to the same time and lose up to 13, 14 liters an hour. So if you're not being intravenously hydrated, you're going to die of shock, and that's cholera. And baby, that hits my cholera. It's like this. See, the thing that we're experiencing, it's definitely, affecting, let's say a definite virus, but it's a manufactured one. We were experiencing biological warfare, and basically, if you go to Hyde, Cliff Hyde, clearly thinking, I think, but Cliff Hyde, I mean, he's a computer modeler, programmer, and he, for most of his career, worked for DARPA or somebody like them, modeling nuclear war, chemical war, biological war. And biological, see, those things came first, you nuke your opponent. But even nuking them doesn't get rid of them, right? So their army, who then comes attacks you, you use chemical weapons on them. Because those are very harsh and very effective. It's like, spraying Raid on cockroaches. Same thing. And then it kind of goes away. But to clean up the mess, you have to have a perpetual infection. That's what biological warfare is used for. So first nuclear weapons, then chemicals, and then biologics. And yet, we're having this disjuncted warfare, and so, and it's not state against state, and it never has been because there has been entities such as the hidden hand, the high table, the powers that shouldn't be, all of those. Basically, were transnational. They were secret societies, mystery schools, and they had agendas, and they were, um, you know, came from, the cats and kittens like the Anunnaki, who were aliens, and basically you have the gray cats, you got the reptile cats, and the Nordics, who are our cousins, and they split the neighborhood back when Earth and our solar system had some serious technology like a billion years ago. We're really just, ridiculous. We're like cavemen playing with matches. That's what we are. And we're expendable. These the guys who had anything left. You know, and they've come back because it still is home territory, and where they went off, you know, it's not as green and nice as this. So they're, have a stick in the fire for us, right? And the Greys are known as Eben, and those guys, again, were like us, but they went the way of transhumanism, and they lost every emotion they ever had, and then they're like more like machines. They're biological robots, and they're collectible. They're like the Borg, but they're even past being the Borg, right? And so then you have the reptiles who have been here forever, and when there were some smart reptiles. Not all the dinosaurs got wiped out, and so they went underground, and they have a certain level of technology, and you know and they're not all bad. None of these guys are all bad, or they're not all good either. They're not all um, you know altruistic. you know so we have to step up for our own soul. We are on a path of enlightened ascension into our free-willed soul. you know Now I'm writing a novel about it right now called Legend. It's really three. One is called Legacy, one's called Legend, and one's called Don't Believe a Word I Say, same as it ever was. And chunks of them are on my channel. xratted.blogspot.com. So go read that stuff. Go. I have to come here to go on the internet. I'll be able to do that because I'm about 10 here. It's 10 miles. It's not 40 miles. And I can afford 10 miles is about $1.50 worth of gasoline. But towards the end of the month, I have very little money, and I don't get my Social Security check, which is only $481. How would you guys do at living on $481? Car insurance, health care, medicine, utilities, and that's just if everything goes along smoothly. So that's why I'm getting slimmer. That's why I'm actually in the best health I've been in 20 years, maybe even more. Since I was 40, I was in pretty good shape when I was 45. And then I started working in the corporate world and was living on the high life. First as a demographer, and then as a pattern recognition guy, which was still in demography, but that's what I was getting paid to look at patterns. And then into looking at the psychology of groups, which were again patterns. And again, so I wasn't doing that much electric work anymore. So I wasn't running around. And I mostly, was in cushy places and cushy chairs and air conditioned and being taken out to lunch to fancy schmancy places. So 30 something years of eating high, fancy schmancy food. Lunch was $30 for that piece of salmon and the linguine and the die for chocolate cake. And didn't even know that road was there. And so I'm out in the most beautiful place, right near a gigantic lake. I'm gonna go, between here and my place is the big gigantic lake, and there's this great place where it's an old place where guys, it's almost a natural place where you can put a boat into water. But there are so many marinas around that have really nice concrete roads that go straight into, this is like, if you're not knowing what you're doing, you can definitely. So you in good shape, G?
I'm working at it.
I really like sitting out here.
Well, we're gonna make this kind of more permanent.
Right.
Get a little more dressed up.
And that way, your high level, high priced, clientele would see it.
Yeah.
Right. And
I want to build a deck out here.
And you wouldn't have to pay for air conditioning.
Well, yeah, you still got to pay for it because it gets hot in there.
Yeah. Well, a little more fans, some windows open.
That'll take care of a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Good thing.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad everything's working out for you.
Well, we're working at it.
And if you need any help, I used to cook.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
I've done everything. I'm not the spry teenager I used to be, but yeah. But anyway, so that's the beauty of this place. Pretty much know everybody, right? And I pretty much done something for them. Mostly listen to them, right? And so they're very open to me. Now, when I say things, they're kind of going, huh? Because they're not coming from. But I say it in such a way that I'm not putting anyone down. I never put anyone down. I just, you guys, I'm talking to you. And they listen to what I say, and it gets into their head, and I'm their griot. I tell them a story. And they're kind of going, So it's a great opportunity, right? And that's the beauty of humanity, is that humanity, we are lucky bastards, and we can overcome things, right? Now, the powers that shouldn't be, the high table, the hidden hand, they all want, basically only 500 million of us left. They want us to basically, have Hunger Games and whatever dystopian movie you want to take. That's what they want. That's why they make those movies, to put it in the collective consciousness of the population. Like what's that thing where one night a week everyone can kill each other, and they want to get rid of police forces. Now, police force only represent the rich, but still, they are an element there that are trying to pretend that they protect and serve. So if you got rid of them, you wouldn't have that. You'd have guys, I just watched a video of some guys out there in the Midwest or Kansas or some, city of about, 250,000, 500,000 people out there in the middle of nowhere. And basically all the guys who, like around here, everybody's got guns. I mean, serious guns. I'm one of the only people who doesn't have a gun. I mean, people, you don't have a gun. I said, why should I have a gun? Got 40 of them. I need a gun. I'll come ask you for one. Anyway, I was out. Everyone's got a safe gun range in the backyard, allegedly. And anyway, this one guy was shooting off, it was like war zone. And I went over to this place. I said, why'd you how many times do you have to shoot that gun to know it works? Well, I gotta be proficient. I said, what's it down in a little thing where there's dirt there, and he put Bill, yeah, so it's relatively safe. But luckily, if he was shooting in my direction, I'd have gotten very upset. But I didn't. I just said, and he goes, well, what about, do you shoot? Because everyone sees me in this thing. I'm always wearing it. I call it my man bag because I have everything in there that I'd ever need. And I have to think about it. I just put it on the hook when I come home. I keep my keys, everything's there, so I don't lose anything, right? And right next to the hook, there's a plug, so I can plug my phone in, and it's all there, And so anyway, I go talk to him, and he's got his AR, and he's got his AK, and he's got his pump shotgun, and he's got a number of 9 millimeters. So I said, they all loaded, and he goes, yep. So I go over, I look around, I see this one gun that's and it looks like a nice little automatic. My favorite automatic was the one James Bond used. And anyway, so I picked it up and I just went bang, 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 bang. And I knocked every can off. I mean, he couldn't hit those cans unless he was using a shotgun. And his mouth was open. So everybody knows he went and spread the word. Whoa, I can't believe it. Al can shoot a gun. So everyone, calls me Mr. Hunter, And I don't hunt, Yeah, I can shoot a gun because in third grade, one of my best friends was, Steve, and what was his last name? Hoagland? I think so. But his grandfather or great grandfather started the NRA, or the thing before the NRA. So their whole family were gun nuts. Like when I went over his house the first time, when I met him in third grade, and we were both new, he was like wearing a suit with a vest, and I wasn't that dressed up, but I was a little, I had khaki pants on and a nice shirt and jacket. Everybody else was like, forget about it. And so he sits down, and I'm sitting at a table. There's nobody sitting there. Everybody else is sitting at another table, and I go and sit at other tables, and they just give me the stink eye. So I'm sitting by myself, but that's okay. I don't care. I got my little notebook, and scribbling in it. And Stevie comes over and says, "Can I sit with you?" And I go, "Yep." He goes, "You're new here too, aren't you?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "They're not friendly, are they?" I said, "Well, they will be. They just got to get used to us." And because it was a very interesting school system, it kind of had a little bit of everybody. It had really rich kids, and because they had people who lived on estates, and there were people who worked on the estates, and there were people. Well, the really rich kids went to private school. There were a couple private schools in that neck of the woods, but they were middle class, and they were like Glen Cove and Garden City, and those were pretty big towns, and so they had lots of different. So it was a lot of different people, and they had farm people. So there was some Hispanic folk, and this was like in the early '60s, and so I grew up until I was third grade. I guess I was 10 when I went to third grade, but my grandma took care of me in Harlem. My buddies were everybody. Harlem wasn't just black people; it was everybody, and everybody was striving, right? Anyway, JP, yeah, JP, JP Hoagland. So he sat down and can I? Sure. He goes, "You want to see my gun?" And I said, "Sure." And he pulls out a Walter PBK, and he puts it on the table, and I look at it, and he takes it apart, right? And he takes the clip out. He takes, and he had a bullet in the chamber. And I didn't know what that meant until later, but anyway, and he had, a really nice holster so he couldn't tell that he was packing. And he took it apart and he laid all the parts out in front of him, and then he put it all back together. And that right there in the lunchroom, and no one even we were so ignored. No, and the teachers, nobody even noticed that this kid had a automatic weapon, took it apart, put it back together, and stuck it back in the holster. I said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And he goes, "You want to come home?" I said, "Come home?" And yeah, to my house. I said, "Yeah, I think that sure." Where you live? He said, "Well, right." I said, "Well, that's not that far from my. I could actually walk home if I needed. Sure, why not? You know, and get there, I'll call my mom, tell her, and she didn't care. My mom didn't care. I could do anything. I did anything, and so I went. We walked to JP's house. I said, "Oh, let's did we go? Yeah, we walked." And we walked, and he was pointing everything out in the neighborhood, which was good. And then um, we went in, and his mother looked like Donna Reed, which was a TV show like his father's know best and Donna Reed. Father's know best was dad knew best, and Donna Reed was mom know everything. And so she's looking like Donna Reed. She's making cookies. Oh, JP, you have a friend. That's so great. Because obviously JP didn't have too many friends. So because I knew him all the way up through 8th grade, and he never stopped wearing that same outfit. You know, black pants, white shirt, a little tie, bow tie, a vest, and a jacket. And he had a plaid vest and a blue jacket, black pants, white shirt, plaid tie. He wore that. That was like his. It was like unbelievable. Anyway, so you know, we go in there. She's baking cookies. She turns around and 245 strapped. And she's a pretty big bosom woman, and it's like her brassiere. Her she looks like a Mexican bandit, but in a Donna Reed television outfit, and it's just like, and she goes, "Here, have a cookie." It was the darn best chocolate chip cookie I had ever had in my life. It's, wow, you can bake, Mrs. Hoagland. Oh, yes. And she goes, JP, why don't you take your new friend down and show him the basement? Went down there, and it was like a military uh, depot down there. I mean, they had a 50 caliber machine gun that they could shoot down in their basement. It was like, these people knew their guns. So anyway, hanging out with those guys, I learned how to shoot a gun. I learned how to take a gun apart. I learned how to fix a gun. I learned gun safety. And that's what I really learned is that, don't take guns away from people. If everyone who had a gun was as clear thoughted about the use of it and the responsibility of it as those people were, we'd have no problems. But everybody and his brother has a gun, right? And so, like my neighbor, when I went over to claim that, he was like, making too much noise. He said, "Well, I'm doing it safe." And I looked around and said, "Yeah, fairly safe. But I mean, if you just shoot right there, you're okay. But anywhere else, you're putting somebody's life at." And and he goes, "Do you shoot?" And I looked over at all the guns he had. I said, "Yeah." And I picked one up and went bang, but took the clip out, put a bullet in the chamber, and went bang, 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 and hit all of the cans, knocked them all down. And I was pretty surprised because I hadn't shot a gun in close to 40 years since then. But I learned well, and basically, it's all about intent. Anything's about intent, right? And the control of your breath. And your breath is really one of the things that is the key to pulling the trigger. So if you squeeze the trigger, the bullet's going to go wherever that barrel is pointing at the moment that you squeeze the release, right? But if you pull it, so you just squeeze it, right? Like you're squeezing toothpaste. And you have, it's all geometry, and that was one of my favorite, still is, things. And you can, from that point of the barrel to the point of your target, you know. And if you're less than 50 feet, then you don't have to worry about wind or any of that kind of stuff. More than 50 feet, you'd have to start thinking about everything else. So, uh, uh, that was that. That's how I learned to shoot a gun. And every time, like I remember, my parents sent me off to um, camps. By the time I was 12, 13, 14, I went to camp. Right? And they just wanted me out of the way and wanted me to, at 14, I was like having my own life. And so at 14, I went to a camp that was actually kind of fun, meaning the first three camps they sent me were like religious camps, and it was like, forget about this. 14, they sent me to this camp in Maine where it was, it was a prep school primer. I was about to go into prep school, and and I went to school with in that summer school. There was the Shah of Iran's son, and I mean, really kind of people. And yet, it was way out in the middle of nowhere, Maine, and that's where I met Teresa. It was Bridgeton, Maine, North Bridgeton, Maine, on Long Lake. It's called Long Lake Lodge, and it was a joke. I mean, we weren't learning anything. But there were two teachers that were like Plato. They didn't have a textbook. We just sat out, you know, in a comfy spot by the lake, and we would talk about history and geopolitics and everything. You know, how to look at things, how to look at people, how to look at life, how to look. I mean, that was quite good. And and they only took certain students. They didn't take everybody, and so that was quite good. So those are and this one Catholic camp. Oh man, it was so terrible. My mom showed me the brochure, and it had horses and a lake. And when we got there, the lake had dried up. The horses were dead. They were actually having us stay in the stalls where the horses had been. And all we got to eat was bug juice, and it was pitiful. And and I was still a sick kid. I was about 10 or 11, and I was just getting better. It was after I had my little regiment with death at 10 in Florida, and it was before I went to my allergy doctor and got my dog Dandy. Anyway, went to this place, and my mom, we went there, and the nurse was an alcoholic, and my mom said, and he's got this, and he's got here's Benadryl and Benylin, and gave him all my medicines, and and we did nothing, and we had to sit in our stupid hot. I mean, just it was like we were baking alive. They woke us up in the morning because the only time the priest could come to give us mass was at 6 in the morning. So from 6 in the morning till it got dark, we had nothing. You didn't do anything. And so within the first week, I said, "This sucks." And so I went to the nurse and said, "I don't feel well." And she goes, "What's wrong? Your head stuffed up, your lungs okay, and blah blah blah." I said, "No, I got a pain right here, right?" Because it had to be more than whatever my medicine says. So I knew about appendicitis, as my brother had one, and a friend of mine had one, and so and my brother really didn't have one. He had colitis or some other thing that he was about. Anyway, um, so um, I knew how I'm a good actor, so I feigned that, and so she took me to the only doctor who they had, who was the nearest town that had a mortuary, where dead people went. And he was a doctor, and so he, kind of palpated. So, oh yeah, you got appendicitis. We're gonna have to operate. And I go, operate. This is, where are you gonna operate? And he goes, but I don't have everything I need to operate on, so I got to. I said, and you don't have my parents' permission, and you don't have this, and you're not touching me with a blade, and no way, get me to a hospital. Oh, I can do it. You just have to sign this document here. And it basically said it was a document for if you were dead, And I said, no, 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 no. I said, don't I get a phone call? So I called up my grandmother, and I said, get me out of here. And so she got my Uncle Arthur to drive all the way upstate to get me. And my grandma knew, she brought me up. She knew, if I was really sick, I'd be in the hospital. So she knew that I just didn't want to stay there because I told her, I didn't, want to be there. And then they took me there. So, because she was babysitting the rest of the clan of my feral wolf brothers and sisters. And I don't know why my parents thought I'd be, less of a trouble out of her hair. I was the only one who obeyed her. But anyway, so I stayed up all night because that guy just wanted to cut me in the worst of ways. So I did not. He went off and got his ether. He got all the things he's got, and he got everything I need. I said, nope, we're not doing it. And so he's waiting for me to go to sleep where he'd like knock me out. And then, so I stayed up all friggin' night. And then my Uncle Arthur showed. So that was, And the other two camps I went to weren't that bad. I mean, they were bourgeois, archery. And those were the ones. So that one, the best one that was, the nicest, that had, nice cabins and nice everything. And it was fun. And they had stuff for us to do. And we went to the movies and had ice cream. And no, that was a good camp. And I had buddies there. And that was another place. So they had shooting, right? So the grandpa of JP's grandpa was still alive, had been a Marine in World War II, right? And so there were 6 guys in that family, and they all had kids. And all of us kids who were male, even some of the women, Grandpa had like his boot camp, and put us, how to climb ropes and swing and everything you see in a movie that the GI does, he put us through. And so he had this one, but it was all about shooting a gun. Yeah, you had to be able to carry the gun, you had to be able to, get there. So, but he had this like little range where we would have to, run in, climb up a rope, carrying a gun, come down, shoot at targets, leave that gun there, go over here, get another gun, shoot at targets, and they'd all be different kinds of guns. And we'd have to, and some of the guns would be in parts. And you'd have to put it together, and he would do something to a part. So you'd have to, when putting it together, make sure that all the parts really were going to work. So, I mean, and we do this like almost at least twice a month. I mean, they probably did it way more, but I did it because it was, depending on the weather, I hated doing it when it was sunny and hot. I don't like being in the sun. Or really cold. But somewhere in between, the fall, the spring, summertime when it was nice, winter when it was nice, I would do it. So I was as good as they were. And so at this camp, the guy, he was an Army guy, and he had the guns, down on the ground on a sandbag, and, if you're shooting a rifle and you got it leaned on a sandbag and the target's no more than 50 feet away, it's almost impossible not to hit the target, right? Anyway, so it came time to do it, and I said, I don't want to shoot a gun. He goes, why? I said, no. I said, I know how to shoot a gun. Really? And no one else shot a gun. So there are all these guns, right? And they all have one bullet in the gun, and it's there on the bag. You're supposed to get down, bang, then put the next bullet, then put the next bullet in, right? Well, I basically, and they were all not automatics, but they all had a reservoir where you could put 4 or 5 bullets in. But he wanted you to put one bullet at a time, safer, and which it is. But me, you know, basically, I went down the line, just took one gun, bang, bang, First, I'd shoot the first bullet, and then I'd put 3 or 4 bullets in the reservoir and shoot those, and I just went down the line, right? And I got, it within, not every one was bullseye, but within 10, which is pretty good. Every target I got at least 10, you know, because it's 10 and 20, then bullseye. And so, and I got some bullseyes, I got some 20s, but I got at least 10, bang, 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 bang. And the guy's mouth was wide open. And, my nickname then was like the gunslinger, Wyatt Earp, Billy the Kid, And that was go right, And I didn't push it, didn't play it, didn't, go any further. So it's all about intent, and that's what's missing. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are out on the street starting to pick up the attitude of intent to do better, to be the best in themselves, and not complain and blame. And that's what we're seeing our present political structure doing, complaining and blaming, and not being responsible. And so that's, what we're seeing. I'm going to leave you to look at this. I'm going to go see if they got some ice. Oh, let me get some more water. My keys so nobody runs away with the car. Hey. why I can get in here. Okay. Ay, ay, ay. There that is. Where'd that little arrow go? It's too bright. I can't see the cursor.
Well, we're getting ready to lock up the door.
Well, I couldn't see the cursor. There it is. It's never good to leave this without turning it off.